Okay, I would like to tell you today something quite profound, which inspired me a lot. And those are recent developments in our understanding why neural networks, not despite overparametrization, work well, but they need overparametrization to work robustly, smoothly, well, contrary to some classical machine learning paradigms. I will skip introduction and jump straight to neural networks, because as a former theoretical physicist, I look at neural networks as machine that curves and folds spaces. And this is one way to illustrate you something that is fundamental but is hidden behind the curtain of highly technical mathematical theorems and their proofs. Okay, for example, if we want to solve the problem of classification, this is the smallest, the simplest neural network that we can imagine. It has 2 input neurons, 2 hidden neurons, 2 output neurons, and some softmax function that transforms our space of our data set, which is 2-dimensional. Our data set consists of 2 kinds of points, for example, magenta ones and purple ones. And we want to classify a new point that comes to this plane and see whether it belongs to magenta or to purple class. And what we do, I will ask you to remember those 3 numbers, n, k, and d. And this is important for our consideration. Everything is interplay between those numbers. So this is our data set. Our data set has 2 features. Our points live in 2-dimensional space, a plane. And this plane will tell our neural networks if, for example, a point appears here, how to classify it as magenta point and not a purple one, or blue or red. This is maybe another contrast. And we feed our neural networks by feeding the coordinates of those points in these input neurons. It is 2-dimensional, so D is a number of dimensions of our parameter space where our data set lives. This N is number of points, number of data points. And classical machine learning paradigm says that we need, if we have more parameters than number of points, we'll have problem with something that's called overfitting. So what we do, we will feed those points and then make linear transformation to enter the hidden layer, which has 3 neurons. We will linearly transform those points by linear embedding. And we will linearly embed this into these 3 neurons, which then defines something that is called embedding space or latent space, because we don't know how exactly neural network work what is their inner working. But what this linear embedding does, you know that any linear transformation only rotates, stretches, shifts, reflects, and shears something. So our initial parameter space is only rotated. We cannot achieve separation of blue and red points or magenta or purple points. And this is better represented in this big slide. So as we go further in forward paths in our neural network, we go to output layer that has 2 neurons. And this is just a projection. And this projection does not succeed 2. There are no possible linear separation between those points. This is bigger picture. And then at the end, we have a softmax. This is something that tells us it is a mapping that maps all our points into probability space. And it will tell us whether our points are with higher probability, higher or less probability belong to one class. It's two-dimensional, but all points belong to one-dimensional subspace. And at the end, this is softmax. This is some nonlinear function that will try to separate those points. But here, in this case, we didn't achieve this. In order to achieve separation, we need to fold or curve the space. And we need something which is called nonlinearity. This is linear function, usual linear function for elementary school. It has two parameters. And if we want to fold this function, we will use something which is called ReLU. ReLU is, we will equip our neurons with a ReLU function. What it will do, it will just annihilate values of this linear function when it is less than 0. So it will equip our neurons with a firing mechanism, and at the same time, we can see that it is the folding of this one-dimensional linear space, which can be represented here. It can fold two-dimensional space. So if we equip our neurons in the hidden dimension with ReLU or some other nonlinear function, it will curve this, it will fold this initial space, parameter space of our data set, and it will curve this, it will learn. I'm not going to delve with optimization problems, but it will learn how to curve it in order to separate those two kinds of points. When we go to the output layer, this is a projection on two-dimensional space. And also the projection from two-dimensional space of those objects looks something like this. And at the end, when we go to softmax, oops, it will clearly separate. With high probability, blue points will be there, red points will be there. So if we now go for our next consideration, we need, for example, regression problem. We have data that lives in a d-dimensional parameter space, and we have k neurons in a hidden layer, and we have, for example, one-dimensional output, and we want to find the value. We want to solve something that is called memorization problem. And what is memorization problem? This is just exact fitting to all the points. We want to find a curve that fits exactly to all points. And there is, it is old topic. There is a theorem called a universal approximation theorem that says if we want to approximate every function, or any function, we need infinite number of neurons in hidden layer. And proof is simple. Pictorial proof is simple. If we have one neuron, we will curve a green linear function at one place to mimic this curved arbitrary function. If we have two neurons, it will fire twice and curve the space. If we have more neurons, it will curve space in more places. And oh, this is next slide. And for arbitrary accuracy of this fitting, we need infinite number of neurons. But this is wrong. And something that saves us is something that is called curse of dimensionality. Just to illustrate this, I will show you how to build a four-dimensional cube. You have a line segment. It's one-dimensional cube. You have, in order to make a square, which is two-dimensional cube, you need to join four line segments and break one-dimensional space into two dimensions, join everything, and make a square. Then you make you use 6 squares. You break two-dimensional space, go to 3 dimensions, and make cube. And then further, I'll explain on some later slides. So if you want to probe space, for example, measure the temperature in space, in one-dimensional space, if you want to probe its space equidistantly at every inch, you need 2 points. For two-dimensional space, you need 4 points. For three-dimensional space, you need 8 points. For four-dimensional space, how we obtain some four-dimensional hypercube, we use this 8 three-dimensional cubes. We break three-dimensional space, enter the fourth dimension, and join opposite edges. And in this case, we need 16 points. This means that 2 points, if there are 2 points in one-dimensional space, they're separated by an inch. If there are 2 points in two-dimensional space, they're separating on average by diagonal, which is square root of 2. In 3 dimensions, square root of 3. In 4 dimensions, square root of 4 or 2. Twice the length of that in one dimension. So in higher dimensional space, you are alone. And this helped Baum, this consideration helped Baum to construct the theorem that says that 2n over d neurons is needed in the hidden layer. This n is number of data points and d is number of dimension of parameter space of our data set. And this is a simple proof. We need at least 2. For example, if we want to isolate those 2 blue points in order to classify them, we need 2 ReLUs, or 2 step functions in Baum's proof, just to curve or fold this space. And in that way, we classify 2. But we have n points, so we need to do this n over half times to do the job. But this half, and that is n. This half is not half, but the dimension of our initial parameter space where our data set lives. And why is this? Because 2 points are collinear, 3 points are coplanar, etc., when we go to higher dimensions. So, quadratic demonstrandum, k is of order 2n over d. And this is in agreement with this classical machine learning paradigm, where this neural network that I presented to you, the number of parameters is equal d times k. And k is 2n over d, and it is of order n. So the number of layers, a number of parameters is of order of number of data points. But we want from neural networks something more. We want them to be intelligent. So in order for them to be intelligent, we must demand that they are robust, that they are smooth enough, so that, for example, if some computer vision algorithm classifies me as a human, if I make a step, it won't classify me as a frog. And what does this mean? This means that for each arbitrary function, we want it to be not too steep. For example, this sinusoid, it has something that's called Lipschitz function. This is maximal slope of some function. It is 1 in case, for example, of this sinusoid. In case of exponential function, it is not Lipschitz because it can arbitrarily go high. Slope goes higher and higher, and there is a joke on professors of mathematics about derivative of exponential functions. You probably know it. And luckily, our ReLU function, the function that curves our space, is also Lipschitz, and it is 1 Lipschitz. So our neural network, our Baumian neural network, classical neural network, has n over d neuron, the number of parameter is k times d, approximately n. But is it robust? This is the question. Is it robust? No, it is not. Making the neural network bigger helps robustness. Therefore, we need overparametrization. So there was a recent result. There are a lot of results, but one plausible. There is an interesting way to explain this. There is a proto book. You probably all know Petar Veličković and Cohen. They have something that proto book of geometric learning, and they have a nice explanation that uses group theory of algebraic topology or something like that. But if you lazy for too much mathematics, this conjecture by Bubeck-Sellke and Nenadović from 2020 will satisfy your interest on this topic. They said that this Lipschitz constant with high probability is of order square root of n over k, and this is theorem. This is conjecture, and later it is partially proved theorem, not at a university but in Microsoft. Today, theorems are proven in big tech companies. From here, it is clear that if k increases, number of neurons increases, the Lipschitz constant decreases, and our neural network becomes more robust, smooth, intelligent. So, ergo, the conclusion, overparametrization is necessary for robustness. And this conjecture has two corollaries, which I'm going to show you. It's partially proven by Bubeck and Sellke in 2021, and it's really recent result, and it's really hard to understand proofs of mathematical theorems nowadays. For understanding some mathematical theorems nowadays, you need weeks, months, years. And first corollary is, and any optimal size neural network cannot be robust. It can be seen easily. For example, if n is approximately equal to d, it is, if you correct math, this is, I realized that this is wrong. This is n over d. And n over d, when n is approximately equal to d, is 1. And this is a linear regression. And if you have a linear regression in d-dimensional space, we've seen that the distance grows as square root of d. So it is not Lipschitz. It depends on the dimension of initial parameter space. And this is where curse of dimensionality, which is nightmare for many machine learning people in machine learning industry. It's nightmare, but this is here something that helps the thing. Oops. The corollary 2 is more interesting to me. Any smooth network where the Lipschitz constant is of order 1 must be large. How I can see this? So let me show you first that the number of parameters then is d times k, and k is approximately n. So d times k is much larger than n. If you have transformer or some computer vision gigantic neural network, you have enormous overparametrization. But it's okay. So I just want to illustrate you this. For example, if you have, this is sphere. I tried to mimic the proof that Bubeck and Sellke did. If you have a sphere and you have 4 points, they are close to each other. But if you had a circle, one-dimensional sphere, if you have two-dimensional sphere, they're further away, as I told you. If you have three-dimensional sphere, there is no way to illustrate you this. This is illustration of Hopf vibration. This is some wild mathematical object from advanced topology. It is a circle that goes over the sphere. This is a four-dimensional sphere. A circle that goes over the sphere, but it does not maps from point to point trivially. And I will d-dimensional sphere represent like this. And if we want to make a classification, we want to separate those endpoints by ReLUs in order to fold the space to classify this. And in high-dimensional space, you're alone. So the probability that you are in this part of space is 1 over n. If they are smoothly or continually spread across this high-dimensional sphere. And so the probability that the ReLU will fire is 1 over n. But here you need n ReLUs, and n times 1 over n is 1. So the Lipschitz constant is of order 1, quod erat demonstrandum. And this is the way how Sellke and Bubeck, this is a group of Bubeck. Bubeck is, I think, chief of research at Microsoft. This is the way they try to solve. There is a group theoretical approach. I already mentioned the group with Petr Veličković. And this is something I also try to, I'm now trying to transcribe this to something that I was working before. This is namely quantum field theory. Because in quantum field theory, everything is a field and particles are excitations of those fields. This is something that looks like firing of those ReLU neurons. And the theorem is not proven completely, so I hope I will be able to understand, at least to prove some part in one other language, which will help in our understanding of what is happening in neural networks. Thank you.
Okay, so it's time for questions. It's a complicated math, I would say, for anyone. I mean, definitely for me, but... microphone.
I'll risk, basically. So first of all, my mind is blown. So I'm still trying to... Now, please, I apologize if the question is stupid, but this is how I understood it. So what you're claiming, and maybe this is obvious or not, using this ReLU, how do you say it? ReLU. Given this ReLU function and enough dimensions, you can pretty much, you can actually mimic absolutely every function possible in the universe, right? Is that the claim, right?
Yes.
That's actually just mind-blowing. Yes. So basically,
yes.
The only question is, how can we go to such high dimensions, I would assume, right?
Yes. This is the only question. This is something that is that was well known in the time of Bohm in 1989, I think. It is called universal approximation theory. So neural networks are universal function approximator, but at what cost? At cost of infinite number of neurons. But there are ways to determine which number of neuron is necessary. Here, in this case, higher dimensional geometry helps us. For example, in physics, you have a quantum field theory on 2 dimensions, which is called string theory. And in order to be, for it to be consistent, to classify or do something, to classify nowadays physics, it is required that our space is 10-dimensional. Those fields, there are 10-dimensional fields on those strings, and it turns out that physics is consistent in 10 dimensions, for example. We didn't yet find a way how to project this on 4-dimensional space in a plausible way so that we have consistent quantum theory of gravity. But I'm trying to connect those two fields in order to explain neural networks.
Also, so again, I'm really trying to wrap my mind around this. So this eventually means that, yes, it is actually possible that artificial intelligence will be exactly or even better than human intelligence, given that we have like enough.
In some aspect, it is. For example, question answering systems, transformers that perform question answering tasks, they surpassed humans on tasks similar to of text understanding, like, for example, PISA text. You have passage of text, you have information in text, and you have a question. And machine better extracts answer from. This happened 3 years ago.
Amazing.
Yes.
That's all I can say. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Here's the question.
Hello. I would only like to ask one question.
Yes.
So basically, everything that you have presented to us was under assumption that the function which is given is actually satisfying the Lipschitz condition.
Yes.
But in the presentation itself, the value was presented, which obviously does satisfy this condition. But I'm wondering, do you have some kind of research while we are using some custom Lipschitz function, not necessarily the value?
I'm not aware of this research.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So they say there are no stupid questions, but I'm about to test this. Is there a practical use presently of what we've seen?
Yes, we are using those overparametrized
neural networks. In what way? Could you please explain us? I mean, how do you do that?
We use those neural networks on our day-to-day. In my work, I use them. But this is not a practical question. This is just explanation
of
why
the system.
they
How
need,
does it work?
Yes, why they need some features. Yes, and this is just explanation.
I'm still trying to figure out. I mean, how does that work in the real life? I mean,
I explained on the
way of the search
on
the search engine. Yes, but what about procurement? Because that's basically the.
We do similar things. We ask questions, our databases, and we want to extract some information from.
So this is the system how they
Yes.
get the answers. Thanks. Okay.
Thank you. This was not a stupid question.
Any other questions? Okay. I think we're still thinking about what we saw. And Luka, thank you. Thank you for this.